Someone shot the food. Life force running out.
Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, December the 28th, 2020. Welcome back to your Mr. Video Game Live Super Show brought to you by Dead Sun Entertainment. I am glad that the streaming thing actually happened this time. This might not be the first take of me attempting to say live to everybody. And boy, if you have survived this far into 2020, you're here with me right now. Congratulations, you did it! We are just a few days away from the end of this god-forsaken year. Thursday is the end of the year, and of course, you know what that means. Since it is the end of the year, we cannot say goodbye to a year without coming together, the three of us, to talk about our best and worst gaming bullshit from the year to gather together your faces. I'm, of course, Slacker Kite. I guess I'm the lead editor here. I push buttons, make thing do, and we all go vroom together. Of course, with me as always, or at least we're usually together. That's the three of us. With me today, we have Brian, aka Wonder Boy, joining us again. How you doing, Brian?
It's Monday, and you know what that means. I am stoked to be back for what is this like our fourth game of the year show?
I don't.
I want
It's at
to. It's
least
either the third
third.
or the fourth. Yeah, I
No,
think it's
I've personally done 2 of them.
yes.
Is this your second?
So
Yeah, I think this is my second one.
yeah, because you were on last year, but either way, like I'm just since starting the show, like these are the shows that I look forward to at the end of the year because they're just fun. We don't have to deal with the news, and we can just like celebrate the year in gaming. You know, both the good and the bad, the outstanding and the disappointing. But I don't know. I'm just stoked to be able to have this show again, and I don't know. I'm happy. I'm just happy. I'm excited because we had a good list of stuff this year to go through. So
Yeah, I mean, this year in gaming kind of compared to some of our last years kind of sucked, but in other ways it was kind of all right at the same time. This isn't like the worst year I think we have ever really reported on from like a gaming standpoint, but from like an everything standpoint, brr, brr.
Yeah, fuck this year.
it's been a doozy.
It has been a hell of a year. Oh, just fan-fucking-tastic. Get that coffee out of the way. Brian, do you want to start us off with your fifth best?
Oh, we don't want to introduce our other usual
Fucking
partner on the
hell.
show.
My
Oh,
brain,
yeah.
I am absolutely here. Our
That's
other
being treated as
usual,
not a person.
our other usual
Oh.
partner in this three bean salad of a podcast, of course, we have Lady Amaro here with us today.
Hi, otherwise
Hi.
known as the kinder, gentler voice of the show. And
Yeah.
sometimes the voice of reason, unless she's raging against the machine.
The nice one here. The yeah, other than the few times where, you know, There are definitely times you get just as pissed as we do, but they're less, and sometimes you're the voice of "but why," and that's
Yeah.
appreciated.
I spend my days saying, but why? Why are people? Um, and then I come on the show and I get to go, but why are corporations? So it's kind of nice directing the frustration and confusion from a single being to a multinational conglomerate entity thing. And I'm still in customer service mode, so I apologize for the voice.
Like I think if you summed up our the theme, the thematics of our show, I think you end up with why is capitalism? I think that's the summary of what we're really about here. I
Sometimes we expand it and just leave it at a wonderful open-ended but why.
I guess I should also add the content of the show. We're going to do our 5 best, 3 worst, and honorable mentions of the year. So it'll be fifth best, third worst, fourth best, second worst, third best, first worst, second best, honorable mention, and then the best of the year. So there you go. That's the format for today. And we're going to start with Brian today. And so, Brian, what do you have for us in your fifth place?
Okay, so number 5 for me was a hard choice because there are a couple of things on my honorable mention list that I'll get to later that could have definitely taken that 5th spot, but ultimately I gave it to Spiritfarer. Spiritfarer is a game that, whenever it was being developed by uh, the team over at oh god, I can't remember the name of the team now. Let me 1 second. I can find this real quick. They're in my Discord. Thunder Lotus. There we go. Whenever Thunder Lotus was developing this game, I don't think that they really. I don't think, and I mean, no one expected to release their games during a year that would be so emotionally taxing and so upfront about having to deal with loss of life and about the comforts and the dilemmas around the end of life for so many people. And Spiritfarer is a game that addressed those things for me personally in a way that was just straight up empowering in a lot of ways. Like it's an emotionally devastating game, but in the best way possible because it still lets you build up Alan, what is going on the stream? Okay, there we go. I was wondering what's going on the stream. I just saw like a Michael Jackson impersonator. Anyway, um, but yeah, it not only did it help you kind of be very forward facing with the issue of the finite nature of life, but also helped you find the happiness and the peace in that, um, along with all the cute cats. And it was just unlike, yeah, the game might have been a little bit bloated. It might have been a little bit too long for what it was wanting to do, but my god, a game that was basically built on establishing emotional connections that felt as strong as they did. Everything about this game really landed for me. It is one of those games that I will go back and play again at some point, because of that emotional connection I have to it. And yeah, like this, it was just it's just really, really, really good. It's also very pretty, as you can tell.
Oh, absolutely. Like the details are gorgeous, and from everything I've seen so far, watching a few parts of, I haven't seen the whole game, but I've seen bits and pieces of it, and it definitely the writing and the animations are fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, like it has a real deft-handed way of bringing you closer to peace with mortality in a way that a lot of games don't. Like it with, yeah, there's all the management sim aspects to it, and there's like building up your ship and all this other stuff, but for me, it really it comes back to the emotion that's infused in the relationships that you build, and really like giving you a moment to kind of sit with yourself
Mm.
and just kind of like look at personal mortality and just kind of like hopefully find a better place to be when it comes to thinking about that, because it can be very scary, especially in a year where we are surrounded by it due to this pandemic. So that's my number 5, a Spirit Fair.
Um, I I have always been interested in this game, like since it was first announced, because it is just absolutely stunning and gorgeous and does have that deep emotional message to it. But I've been really hesitant to play it, given the events of last September.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I could like emotionally handle being able to actually go through and play this game given its subject matter, which makes me really sad because I really wanted to play this.
Yeah. Well, I would say this: if you did decide to play it, the game is structured in a way, because it is so kind of bloated. It gives you moments in between to kind of just be in a game. You
Mm.
know, like whether you're harvesting crops or like building onto your ship and stuff like that, or like making recipes for different characters. It gives you elements of that to kind of like gives you a breather. And also because it is so long, it offers you plenty of chances to kind of like, get a couple hours in and then hop off. So you're not like, I would not suggest this game as like sit down for a weekend and try and get through this, because like you are going to be like a wreck of bleary eyes. Like, and it's gonna like, it's just, no, this is not something you marathon through. This is something you
Why
play, you
every
sit with,
emotion?
you engross yourself in, and you reflect on as you go through it. So yeah, that would be my suggestion if you did feel like you wanted to play it. Obviously, I you do what is right for you by all means, but it does kind of give itself a structure that is better for people that might not necessarily be able to handle everything that it's trying to throw out there all at once.
Yeah, it reminds me a wee bit of like Ask a Mortician. That while the context of what they're talking about is fairly bleak, there's a lot of interesting stuff to take away from it, and it you know ultimately should leave you feeling more peaceful in the end than you came in with it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, awkward transition. Merowyn, what's your number 5 of the year?
I'm just real quick. There's gonna be a lot of awkward transitions, I think, in some of
Oh
my
yeah.
choices this year.
Oh, from all of us, really. I think.
My number 5, and it's so hard to pick because everything was so closely ranked. I know it came out a couple years back, but I just delved into it this year. Is Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Mm.
Um, I watched Peter play a lot of it, and then I finally sat down to try to play it on my own. And holy crap, is it overwhelming! There is so much, so much to do that I'm running into an issue that I did when when I picked up WoW for the first time, where you hit a quest hub and they give you like 15 different quests and you don't know where to start first.
Yeah, it
And I didn't
does.
make it too far as a result.
It from what I've seen of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I remember Joan playing it a bit, and it does seem like a lot to take in, but also just extraordinarily pretty and a lot of interesting design to it. There's a lot of great space usage in it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is stunningly beautiful. It runs very smooth. I mean, my previous experiences with the Assassin's Creed series have been, oh God, Black Flag and Syndicate, which had some of the most awkward controls. It was very difficult to get yourself to parkour properly. Or that could just be me. I'm purely awkward. Um, but this one, like the fact that it gives you a choice and I won't spoiler it in case anybody hasn't played it and, wants to. There is a choice that you make at the very early game that will influence the remainder of your game. If you choose in a certain way, an entire area becomes unplayable.
Ugh,
That seems frustrating.
a little
And
bit.
there's no way to take it back.
I don't. Hmm. That's real frustrating.
Yeah. Granted, it's a case of you leave said area and you come back and it's like 2 or 3 months later or something. And yeah, the area is just dead. Literally dead.
Hmm.
But in order to make the correct choice that will leave that area unscathed, it is probably one of the most heart-wrenching moral decisions you have to make.
Sounds
And
promising.
it broke me. I have never had a game break me like an hour into a 60+ hour game. I made my choice. I sobbed like a baby because Peter let me know, hey, if you choose the way that I think you're going to want to choose, kiss this whole area goodbye. And it's like, okay.
Fuck. That's a daunting choice to put forth, especially masked, where you don't necessarily know that's going to come into play like 50
Exactly.
to 60 hours down the line.
There is
Fuck.
no warning whatsoever. None. No indication. So, I mean, for the sheer mind fuckery of it, bravo, ACO.
Mm.
Bravo. But yeah, that's definitely why it's sitting as my fifth right now.
Gotcha.
Just- I don't think I gave it enough of a chance. I've got to get a new controller
Ah.
so I can actually, and time. Time would be a thing. That's my list
Oh,
is kind of
that's
awkward
slippery
this year
shit.
just due to lack of time.
Ah. Um, my number 5 for this year. Hear me out on this one. By the way, for some reason we seem to be dropping into Rad Brad videos often, but don't think that like whatever I kind of just choose as a video to go along with it. Really, just looking for gameplay to talk over here. So hopefully none of the people whose videos we're talking over mind. I kind of doubt it since we're not really taking the whole video or anything along those lines, but just kind of throwing that out there. If the people who make this really don't want us to, I sincerely apologize, and I'll try to avoid it from now on. Anyway, that being said, my number 5, as you can see on what screen in front of you, is Cyberpunk 2077. And you might have a but why. Okay, there's a couple of reasons. One of them is a horrible reason, but still, it's a very trust reason. And I'll just start with the bad reason for me liking the game. I love broken shit way too fucking much. Anyone who's known me for long enough knows my adoration for trying to get things to do the absolute worst possible. And boy, Cyberpunk 2077 is great for that. But that's really not all of it. I really I didn't go into Cyberpunk 2077 expecting literally anything. The whole time we've been covering this for what 2 years now in the lead up to it, I had no interest in whatsoever. I tend to hate open world games. I used to be a big fan of Grand Theft Auto back in the PS2 days, with the Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City trilogy, and then I fell off with San Andreas. And no open world game other than I guess Breath of the Wild, if you want to consider it that way, really dug me in. Meanwhile, Cyberpunk 2077 has me at 60 hours currently invested, and I have just hit the point of no return. I've done literally all of the side quests. You might say, but why? I'm kind of in love with the city they built. There is some amazing architecture and building for every time that I get pissed off at how bad the driving is. Every time that there is a game-breaking glitch is another moment where they make me love some of the characters. Panam is kind of great. Judy is kind of great. There's a lot to really love under the hood, and it makes me want to do as much of the side quests as possible, because the only way you really get a feeling for literally any character is by doing those side quests. Because if you just play the game straightforward, you don't get a whole lot out of it. Like, there's some decently moving moments in especially with your main character and Jackie, but you don't really get much without really digging into it. And once I dug into it, I dig the world they're building here. Can I recommend this game? Hell no, at least not right now. Give it a few months, maybe pick it up on a discount. And boy, there's a lot they fucking have to flesh out in this game for it to remain consistent, because some of the quests are awkward. Some of the storylines do a dangly bit. And there's so many problems, and that's why it hit fifth best. And I can see the backbone of a game that could have been fucking amazing, and that pisses me the hell off. But for what I have here, it's enjoyable. And in a year where there weren't a lot of truly amazing games to me, the fact that the gameplay can hold me in a shooter for 60 hours means a lot to me. And maybe my opinion will change after I've beaten it, but from where I stand right now, I can feel pretty good about putting it at number 5, with the context that this is my number 5. This is not my recommendation number 5.
I respect your ability, your ability to have an opinion.
Not respect my opinion, but the ability for me to hold one.
Yes, I do. You're my friend. We'll get. I'll talk more about this later.
Well, Brian,
That's a hint at something. Anyway,
shall we go into your third best or third worst?
I don't know. I want to reverse the order whenever we are like switching up, because I think that it feeds right perfectly into your third most disappointing.
You want me to go for my third most disappointing?
Yes. Let's do this. Let's go. We'll go reverse order. We'll just keep reversing it,
Sure.
like a snake draft.
Hey, I don't even have to change anything. My third
No, you
worst of
don't.
Cyberpunk 2077. Fuck this game. Fuck the shit out of this game. Fuck this game's races. The game's races are fucking horrible. Why did you put anybody with a fucking gun in the passenger seat when that person does literally nothing for the entire race, but you make her yell at me the entire time I'm doing this race in this shitty ass driving that you gave me? Why does my character's looks have absolutely nothing to do with what's going on? It really doesn't matter. Why do several of the branches that take place never fucking matter? Why did you not make some of these characters have real backstories? Why is this game both interesting on a mental and spiritual level, but also really horrible on that same level? The transphobia and places is awful, and then in other places, amazingly, subtly well-handed. This is the most bipolar game I have ever played in my entire fucking life. This is a game built from committee of people who are A students and F students. They all came together to make one game, and that's why I love it, and that's why I hate it at the same goddamn time. This game sucks ass. Don't even buy it until it's goddamn patched. It has to go down in price first. Don't even buy it at the $60. If it stays at $60, never buy it. But it's worth like $20 to $30, maybe.
Say 10.
Mhm.
And even that might be too expensive.
That felt cathartic.
Why is the racing so goddamn bad? I hate it. I love driving in video games. You made me hate driving. I am never going to let you live that down, Cyberpunk 2077. I have never hated driving in a game. Fuck you.
I'm glad you were able to let that out.
Thank you. Marilyn, what's your second or third verse? Do you have one? I don't remember anymore. My brain's fried.
To be honest, I've kind of liked everything I've played this year. I will say that there was one that was released very late last year. That I don't know if I ever got to talk to about, so I'll give that as my third one. Paranoia.
Oh yeah. I
I
remember you
was
starting that.
so excited for this game. So excited for this game. And then they dicked it. So it'll be Paranoia, Happiness is Mandatory. And I love the
nope.
tabletop version. Love the tabletop version. The game itself had so much promise. This is like right up there with Cyberpunk, like great tabletop translated into a video game, and there were some things fairly broken, i.e. trying to explain the hacking minigame. Their instructions were shit, mainly because you're on a very short timer and they give you the instructions while the timer's already running. So expect to fail a lot. And you can't skip it. It is required to advance the game. Not just the story, the game. So as a result, I did not get very far, and it made me so sad. The wit, the sarcasm, the writing for this game was stellar. But they done broke my heart. They really did. I was so excited for this, especially after watching the crew from Geek and Sundry, so Mercer and Ivan Van Norman, all playing Paranoia. It was amazing. And it made me fall in love with the game all over again. And then I heard that they were bringing out a video game version, and I got super excited. And then I played it, and fuck this game. I am so depressed.
Brian, how about your third worst?
Okay, so my third most disappointing game of 2020 is near and dear to my heart only because of its subject material. That would be WWE Battlegrounds, the ill-fated arcade-style fighter that 2K decided to put out this year, as opposed to a actual 2K like full like simulation WWE video game after the debacle of 2K20 last year. This game it has so many paywalls on it. The gameplay in it is so shallow. Like basically, whenever you're creating characters, like you basically just pick a fighter type, and then the rest of your moves are kind of stock, except for like a few different ones. So like the creation suite is frustrating and goofy and not good. The game itself, like the arenas are interesting in that you have like, you know, area effects that can hurt opponents and that sort of thing, but they're all just sort of like not ridiculous in a bad way. Like they just whenever they interact with with the physics of the game and the stability of the game, it can generate some laughable stuff, and some very frustrating stuff. It feels almost like you're fighting against the game in many ways, whenever you're playing it. Not to mention the fact that they lock a lot of the more prominent WWE um, icons or whatever behind those paywalls. So like you have to either grind extensively in the game or drop some more money to get some of those characters for yourself. Like this had a lot of promise because like WWE has a good history with arcade style games. Like they're showing WWE All Stars was really good. I am still a stickler for the WrestleMania the arcade game from back in the 90s. Was a really good like arcade style WWE wrestling game. But this just felt so empty in a lot of ways and so quickly pushed out the door. It's just frustrating, honestly. If they were trying to take the year off from the 2K series to kind of get it in a better position and put this out, like they could have put some more effort into this because they could have had a whole nother franchise to keep working on if they had pulled this off well enough. But in the end, like it's just terrible. It's just bad. It's just bad. Oh god, it's so bad.
God, I love paywalls, don't you? Always love those.
You gotta love like mobile style microtransactions in a console game.
Uh,
Fuck off with that. I'm sorry. Done with it.
all right, so continuing with our theme, Brilliant, what's your fourth best?
So my fourth best this year is probably gonna be a lot higher on some other lists. Um, Not just on this show, but on a lot of other shows. Um, my fourth best game of the year is Hades.
Respectable.
Yes. So main reason why it is as low as it is mainly because I haven't spent as much time with it as I have with other games that are on my list. Um, but that being said, like for just a pure straight up game that I love to play, like in terms of like engaging with the mechanics of it and how they built out how you played this game, Hades is probably the best playing video game of the year. It is by far the best in that way. They basically the team over at Supergiant basically reinvented the run based roguelite with this. Let's put it this way: Spelunky 2 came out this year, and no one really talked about it because Hades was like the better game in that genre.
Mm.
Like if you are topping Spelunky, like you are doing something right in this genre. The writing is outstanding. The graphics and animation and art in this game are great. The characters, like it really feels like it has that Supergiant polish when it comes to crafting out the world that it wants to craft out. And um it's just so good. It's so good, but for me, there are things that do rise above it on the list personally, just for my own tastes in what I go to in video games. But Hades definitely deserves a spot on this list, and I would be remiss if I didn't put it on here somewhere. It needs to be on everyone's game of the year list. Honestly, it's just universally good.
Okay. I think it's I can feel it in my heart of hearts. Marilyn, how about you? What's your number 4?
My number 4 is actually an ongoing game.
Mhm.
It's been running for God, I don't even know how many years now. But Star Trek Online. Um, they recently did a whole update based around the Klingon Civil War and watching the Khitomer Accord fall apart. And if you are a Trek nerd, you will understand why this is kind of epic. Um, I mean, the animation is janky AF, and it's still kind of rough around the edges, despite I don't know how many years.
I do see it. It has sort of that weird, like, City of Heroes jank that I recall.
Yeah, yeah, like the early rise of MMOs level. Um, but if you are a Star Trek nerd, being able to go physically hang out on Ryza or on Deep Space Nine, to be able to take part in some ridiculously epic space battles, like I'm talking hundreds of ships, and then you.
I'm not even a Trek guy, but seeing that board cube float by was like, oh shit.
Oh, you like board cubes?
Mm.
Guess what? There are missions where it's you and whoever else you happen to be able to pull together into a party versus like 60 cubes.
Fuck off.
Fuck.
It is so much fun. So much fun. It's free. It's
Ooh.
fucking free. No subscription, no mess like that. It's free. And honestly, guys, if you haven't played it, it's worth it. It's got a bit of a learning curve, but there's a great community and an awesome wiki. You can get into fleets, which are like guilds in any other MMO. So you actually have people that have your back. Uh, Peter and I, when we started playing, had the benefit of finding a really great fleet early on who taught us how to play the damn game.
Ooh. Always helpful.
And being able to fly like iconic styled ships, like for the longest time, I had Voyager as my main ship, and it was awesome. So, highly, highly recommend. It's just way too much fun.
That's really cool to hear that the community kind of like helped teach y'all how to play the game inside of the game. That's dope. I don't really hear too much of that from the MMO world. And granted, I could be, that could just be my own ignorance because I don't really engage in the MMO sector that often. So,
No, it is pretty rare. I've only found two MMOs where people are actually willing to teach an absolute noob, and it's Star Trek Online and Warframe.
wow.
Like,
Two freebies.
I remember in WoW being like a newbie and out doing quests, and somebody did stop by and be like, "Hey, you look like you're having some trouble. You need some help?" And they stuck with me for like 30 minutes and helped me clear out some quests and, explained, a lot of how things work. So it certainly do happen, but in most MMOs, it's not the normal thing to happen. So that is pretty cool. I know some MMOs are definitely known for their communities, and your larger ones tend to not be. Looking at you,
Yeah.
Guild Wars.
This has a really big player base. And the other thing is as you level, you get a more powerful ship. They
Nice.
don't force you to grind to get a ship. And I mean, even their premium purchases, you can grind. You literally do not have to spend a cent in this game if you don't want to. And the other nice thing is, build up your ship weaponry how you want. You want a ship that does all beam weapons of one specific damage type? Do you? You want one that literally just fires torpedoes? Rocket. One that lays mines? Uh huh. You want a combination of absolutely every single type of damage and every single type of like projectile? Go ahead.
Phew.
I'm running what is called a Skittle ship
Mm,
because it's pure beam weapons, but it is of every single damage type, which means I literally fire a rainbow.
Ooh.
dig it.
It's awesome. So, like, the customization is infinite. The clothing options are awesome. You can customize your actual character because there are ground missions, there are social hubs. They do holiday events. Like, I think still now until the 8th of January is Q's Winter Wonderland,
Fuck
which
you.
has Oh no, it's great. There's climb
Sorry.
on ice fishing. There are snowball fights against evil sentient snowmen. You get to fight the Kramptheri, which is like Krampus.
Mm.
Um, you have to build a Snowconian, which is a giant sentient snow cone creature, to fight off the evil king of the snowmen,
Nice.
and then try to keep it living with extra syrup and ice shavings. And the syrup is gained by melting candies with your phaser. Like, it's just adorable and fun and pure. And there's stuff for every era of Star Trek fan. So you can do Star Trek Online, which is your, kind of conglomerate of everything. You can actually run Discovery Era, which is really cool all on its own. And you can also run the original series era.
Mm.
So you start off with a ship straight out of the original series timeline.
I mean, how do you not go with that? How do you not become
Sound
Kirk?
effects included.
Excellent.
Oh God. All
So
right.
it sounds different when it fires. It's awesome. I mean, and they constantly have freebies that you can pick up through their store. For example, my entire bridge crew are holographic versions of the original cast.
Hmm.
So when I go onto a ground mission, I've got Chekhov, Scotty, and Spock with me.
Nice.
Because why not? And it's pure and clean and a lot of fun, and being able to explore, like, this person is at Starfleet Academy right now and running around and running little missions and stuff. Like, it's fun. And there's Deep Space Nine,
Are we allowed to
which
have pure and clean on this show?
I don't know, but I
Yeah.
just
Why not? I'm
Okay.
fine with it.
it's definitely worth picking up and checking out. It's not a gigantic game, like, resource wise. I was running it when my computer was still a potato.
Mm.
Um, but it's worth it just to dig around for a couple of hours, because nothing really draws you in for days.
Gotcha. My number 4 probably shouldn't amaze anybody too much. I drop in number 4. Are there any games from 2020 on Lady M's list? Kinda. Anyway, yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake is my number 4 on my list. And ooh, so many ads coming up before this. Anyway, I was really amazed that the people at Square didn't just go, "Hey, here's Final Fantasy VII, but pretty." They took the time to make characters that just appeared and then died in the original Final Fantasy VII have real earnest backstories, completely change in some ways the things that happen, and in other ways keep them entirely the same. It's a game with a whole lot of meta narrative going on. Of You can tell that they are framing this as a world that has seen all of this before. Like, this is a cycle that is repeating itself, and how that plays out is really interesting. I don't know if with the game as they continue to expand it, if they'll be able to live up to how interesting the story feels like it could be at the very beginning. Because they really laid out some really interesting ideas. And for the 30 or so hours it takes to beat the actual game, it's really fun through the whole thing. I absolutely love the updates they did to the battle system. Um, a lot of times I find active time battling in RPGs to not be very fulfilling. But in the case of Final Fantasy VII Remake, I had an awful lot of fun, especially once I got used to Cloud's counter. I think that's one of the big things in the game. Once you get that, you're like, oh, I see what you wanted me to do. Um, I wish they had tutorialized those things a lot better than they did. Because the way that I tried to play it for the first like 10 hours is not the way you're supposed to play it. um, and there is something to be said about a game that requires you to play it in a certain way. And that's why it's not making higher on my list, despite the fact that the gameplay was there, the story was there, it's graphically beautiful, it doesn't have any fucking glitches. Um, but I don't feel like the game really told you what it expects of you. And I do feel like there were parts of it that didn't feel full, but I don't know if that's going to be expanded upon in future releases as they continue the storyline or what have you. There just felt like there was something missing from it overall, and it's hard to put definitively what that is, but for what this game is, it's a great game, and really, this is the sort of remake I hope to see more often rather than just better graphics and fixing the, some of the issues from the original.
No, I'm with you. I like this game. Just this game, like is deserving of that spot simply because of like one, the battle system is so much more improved over previous games that kind of established an active battle system in Final Fantasy games, and also just the sheer balls of this company and the developers for like taking this idea of yeah, we're remaking Final Fantasy VII, but not in the way that you think we are. Like it turns the whole idea of a remake on its head, and I love it so much for that.
Yeah, and I think that's why Final Fantasy VII, the original release, like caught so many people back in the 90s. It really took the console RPG to a place it hadn't been before. And I feel Final Fantasy VII Remake does the same thing. It's not that we've never seen this type of story in an RPG ever, and it's not like Final Fantasy the original hadn't been there either. But for the large scale cinematic console game, it really is doing a lot metatextually that I don't think we have seen before, and at least at this scale. Like, yeah, of course there's your Undertales and whatnot that play with the meta narrative and everything, but Undertale didn't look like this.
Well, no, but it's also completely different because like Undertale didn't have a game that was already like universally beloved and heralded and cherished so much like Final Fantasy VII is. You know, like this is a game that like they took a giant risk by doing what they did with it in terms of like really reimagining what a remake could look like with it.
Hmm.
Because let's be real, they could have just churned out an up-res version of this game and they would have gotten like so many people on board with it
Oh yeah,
just
I
because
would.
of the love for that first game. So like I really commend them on taking that risk and having it pay off as in the way that it did.
Yeah, if you just took the original game, slapped on some better sprites and all of that good stuff, I still would have plopped down my $60 to play if it was the full game. But yeah, um, they took a real risk with it, and kudos to Square for not just wanting to sit back in their laurels and everyone loves Final Fantasy VII, just put it back out again. So this also requires me to go into my second most hated thing of this year. And it's not a game. It
What do we
was
got?
the Analog Pocket, one of the most anticipated, like, not real, it's not a new console. It's not, a brand new thing. This is basically a way for you to play your Game Boy and your Game Gear games in a beautiful LCD screen, completely free of all of the problems that come with playing original Game Boy games. It is the way that you should play these games, other than, using an emulator, obviously. I know it's not out yet. We're getting there. Every person that's taken a look at the technology hands-on has been amazed by it. But you'll see there's a problem. They completely PR'd the hell out of this with Retro Enthusiast. Hi. And didn't really bother to say what the pre-ordering would look like. I've yet to see anything further come out of them on what future orders are going to look like. But the debacle of putting out pre-orders for something that got swept up in 30 fucking seconds. Nobody else is able to buy this for what is really an enthusiast product. And then immediately after, seeing eBay get flooded with Analog Pocket resells. I know there are definitely people that got in on this. Jeremy Parrish was able to. John Borg was able to. So it's not like nobody was able to get their hands on this. And I am absolutely certain that once they're able to make more, they will. But directly after getting this already, Analog has basically gone quiet, other than the promise that before they launch this product, that there will be more pre-orders, and there will be even more when the product actually goes live. But my number 2 is how abysmal the PR has been for this and keeping their consumer base notified. Analog is just one of the most well-known companies in the retro enthusiast community, and to see it being handled the way that it has driven me fucking crazy. I want this stupid thing. I really want it, and it's dumb that I even want it anymore. But there it is.
I mean, no, I could definitely feel the frustration. I mean, just look at all the console pre-sales this year, right? I mean, analog. Yes, the analog situation is like kind of isolated in its own kind of like fucked upness, but like really, it's a lot of the symptoms there are the same things we saw with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. So it's just frustrating all around to see bot scalpers and all this other bullshit like gonna ruin the fun for a lot of people.
Yeah, at the least, like, Analog had control over how this was released. They had that full control over it. Like, at least when you look at Sony and Microsoft, Sony put out more of the PlayStation 5 than they've ever put out for any console ever. And the fact that some of the sellers jumped the gun and then everyone just kind of flooded in after with those pre-sales. I can't directly blame them, but still, this year has sucked for trying to get particular items. I don't think there's been a good launch of any hardware product this year. Scalpers be thirsty.
Even existing products have been a pain to get a hold of. Like, I know back in the early days of the pandemic when I actually had money, I was looking to buy a Switch.
Mm. Right.
because I wanted to get it with the little fitness game, right? And yeah, you could. There was not a standard Switch to be found in the GTA, which kind of sucked.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember when the Wii launched and how impossible that was to find for years.
I got a Wii with no issue with the second wave that was released.
Fair. Like, I remember for my birthday in February, a year afterwards, that I still had to wait outside of Best Buy, and there was a line at that Best Buy for them to open the doors with, I think they had like 30 Wii's, and luckily there was like 28 people in line. So yeah, this isn't new or anything to the Sphere. It is just frustrating as hell. And I'm never mad at a product for selling out. As long as expectations are set. So Marilyn, your second biggest disappointment of the year?
Cyberpunk.
I feel like this is going to come up a couple times on all
I'm
of our
gonna
lists.
play devil's advocate with it.
Mhm,
It had its elements. That was
mhm.
really good. Like, I love the story so far. I'm not that far in. I've only just hit title screen.
Oop.
Yeah. But the story has been great. It's just so bad. Oh my god. And then, like, I'm playing the PC version,
Mhm.
which, from what I understand, apart from the next gen consoles, was one of the more smoother versions
Yeah, I
by way
think
of
It is the
Stadia.
explode.
smoothest.
Yeah, this.
PC and Stadia are the smoothest versions.
Yeah, I think they're basically the same version between the two of them. Just one is streaming from the Googles. So, and
But I'm gonna echo you, Trev. It's the driving.
oh, there's so many awful things in Cyberpunk 2077 that you can look at, and again, so many good things you can look at. Um, man, it is amazing how much went right and wrong, and how fucked up the PR. Yet again, it comes down to the PR for this. Saying that this game ran flawlessly before it came out, and giving the reviewers good copies of the game. Man, what a piece of shit. And everyone has now lost confidence, rightly so, in CDPR. So they can fuck themselves.
Yeah. I mean, you give me a game that says I can do anything, I can be anyone, I can drive like a madwoman through the entire city, and then you break the driving. No, just no. I mean, granted, the little tiny super compact cars that you see, you can steal those.
Mm,
And they're like little go-karts to drive around. It's kind of fun. You can kind of see how a Roomba feels.
yeah. I
But
do
yeah,
kind of enjoy the Akira motorcycle. That's not bad because whenever you stop, it does the Akira slide every time. And I've kind
okay.
of learned how to make it always do that so I can always get my corners right.
See, that would be cool. But at present, I had the starter car and Jackie's motorcycle.
Yeah, yeah, the starter
And
car is a piece of
my
work.
very second time trying to ride that motorcycle, it glitched really bad. And it looked like I was some kid trying to learn how to drive stick for the first time. I literally bunny hopped the front of that bike down the road while stalling and
Mm,
staggering every 30 seconds.
ugh.
It was horrific. But I like the world. It's so broken, and the PR and all of the broken promises, and oh, I
And,
really wanted to put this on my best list this year.
like, I had a great moment where somebody was like, let's break into this building. Can you give me a boost? And me, being the asshole I am, had bought the double jump and just jumped over their head up on top of the thing. It's like, oh, well, I guess you could do that too. I see you like hopping. And it was just, there are so many great moments like that, and then you get stuck in scanning mode and can't beat it.
I got frustrated with the aiming, and so I decided to take down an entire room of people with a katana. That
Oh,
was amusing.
yeah, Josh C got me invested early in Blades, and I have not turned back. Thank you, Josh. Brian, what's your second worst?
So my second most disappointing game of the year is Fast and Furious Crossroads. Ah,
Actually, somehow
so
don't even remember this coming out this year.
probably for good reason. Because it was bad. It was really, really bad. And really this makes the spot for me mainly because how we have seen the gaming world try to adapt the Fast and Furious series multiple times over the past 10 to 15 years. Um, and I swear to God, every time that they have done it, it has been a complete shit show. It has been just it generated some of the worst racing games that have ever come out. And this one had a lot of promise behind it because it was in the hands of Codemasters. Um, and Codemasters, as we spoke about a couple weeks ago, whenever they were purchased by EA, they are your go-to when it comes to a racing game. They put out Dirt 5 this year, and that has been what many people have been arguing is like the best racing game of the year. Um, and then they also put this out, and this is one of the most god awful racing games I've ever played. It feels very, very bare bones, even whenever it's trying to tie into the Fast and Furious stuff. And it just is frustrating because, like, as someone who loves the dumb, schlocky fun of the Fast and Furious series, um, those movies are just great, dumb, turn your brain off and just watch cars go boom, sort of action. And like this just doesn't ever deliver on that feeling. And I feel like the Fast and Furious series is ripe for the video game treatment. It just always seems to fall flat on its face. And at this point, I don't want people to try and make Fast and Furious games anymore. Like, it's been beaten out of me because of Fast and Furious Crossroads. I'm done with it. I don't need it anymore. We got Vin Diesel in Arc 2. Let him go do his Arc 2 thing. Let's please do not try and get this thing out.
That's a crying shame when, like, there's something you want, but it has been fucked up so many times that there is no form of redemption. And I can totally understand that.
Yeah, and real quick, just to answer Josh's question in the chat, asking me, I have played a little bit of the Forza Fast and Furious kind of add-on thing that they did. It honestly, like, it felt more like I've never really been let's put it this way, Forza, it has the Gran Turismo effect for me in that, like, I get that you want to try and make a very realistic car game. And even whenever it comes to the more the Forza Horizon series, where it's a bit more kind of open world, sort of not really focused on like taking the best line sort of thing. It's still like whenever you mix that with Fast and Furious, it still doesn't really deliver on it for me. And that was the case with that game. It just never gave me that feeling of being in the universe that Fast and Furious wants to create for itself and has created for itself in the film series. So it just never clicked. And then even going back to the Fast and Furious game that came out on PS2, that was, God, the worst drag racing in a video game I've ever played. Jesus Christ.
So I've been watching this this video on this game. And I don't know if it's the video quality. I don't know if it's my computer. I don't know if it's the stream itself. But honestly, this is giving me graphically vibes of like Need for Speed 2 Underground on like the OG Xbox.
I was
Like
gonna be generous and give it
Harsh.
PS3, but damn.
like I played a lot of that game and everything is just screaming Need for Speed Underground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these
Like
textures suck ass. That's
yeah.
and everything looks kind of slidey. Yet again, I haven't played it, so I don't know. But boy, it do look slidey as hell.
It's just bad. It's just bad all around.
All right, Brian, your third best of the year.
So this one is a very fun one for me because I get to say that the commissioner is doing a great job. Blaseball is number 3 on my game of the year list, and no one will tell me that I can't add it. Blaseball has just been it's transcended gaming. And it's just the world that is created online with so many people, whether they're like role playing as the various teams or players or fucking monsters, gods, that we've seen. It's just so fascinating as a concept, and then the actual game itself for being just a better basically has been really fun to play. And whenever I got into the game was whenever sports really hadn't fully come back in a way that really felt anywhere near comparable to what they were before. And Blaseball kind of gave me that itch a little bit when it came to that, just the game itself. And then getting the chance to actually speak to the developers about this game and seeing the world that's risen around it and how inclusive it's been and how the development of the universe has been so flexible with what the fans have introduced to it. We have like multiple albums from the Seattle garages. Blaseball Cares is producing some of the best video game related merch that's all being sold for a good cause. They've used this platform to support so many real life causes, whether it goes back to all the protest movements that we saw, bail funds, LGBTQ groups, racial racial minority groups. All kinds of advocacy work has been done around this game, and it's just been enthralling to watch. And I really am glad to see the game band get the love they deserve for this thing. And I've also been happy to see them take a step back and try and reimagine what Blaseball will look like in the future going forward. I will admit there's been a bit of a void for the past month or two with no regularly checking in on how my Miami Dale are doing, or how Han Fox, whatever team she's hopping onto next, is doing. But this game has just been so wonderful to engage with on a daily basis, and I don't really play games that give me that feeling that often. Especially when it comes to like daily interaction with it, because like I said, I'm not a big MMO guy. I like a lot of story driven stuff. I like stuff that has something to say. Hades is on this list, but I'll be honest, like I don't play a ton of roguelites. And that's just feeds into that engagement level for me. But Blaseball did it. Blaseball scratched that itch, and I absolutely adore it. And the commissioner's doing a great job.
He is absolutely always doing a great job. I do believe we're on the 6th Parker at this point, or is it the 5th?
I think we're still on the 5th, but don't quote me.
Yeah. The I.
Yes.
Marilyn, what is your third?
Third is another older one, but it just literally last week got a major update. So suck it, Coop. Stardew Valley. I mean, the latest update added yet another new farm that you can start from. And I've been playing this game since the beginning. And it has never failed to just zen me out, shut off my brain for a couple of hours, and it's lovely. Yeah, it added a shit ton of shit, Josh. That is so true. Um,
Sometimes you just need shit.
yeah, and the fact that like this game started out as one dude. One. And yeah, my time at Portia is like Stardew Valley in 3D with engineering instead of farming. But yeah, like new enemies, which I'm thrilled for because I used to spend a lot of time in the mines.
Mm.
But I started a new game last night with the newest uh farm, which is the beach farm. And it's nice. There's less shit to have to clear around. Um, it's just flat out prettier. And I am so thrilled with all of this. Like, go, Confused Ape. This is amazing.
Yeah, I can absolutely understand. I've never been able to get into Stardew Valley. It feels too much like going back to work for me to get in on. Like, I played it for a week solid, and I played through 1 year. And for the entire year, I just went to my farm, and I started finding myself just do the farm stuff, go to town, sell what I got, buy stuff to keep the farm going, go back to my farm, and just repeat that ad nauseum. Um, because that's the way my fucking brain works, and it's dumb. But I have seen enough people play it to get why other people love it, and fuck yeah, a lot of these updates, some of them are just quality of life, but quality of life stuff that's needed. And sometimes even quality of life changes can be hugely transformative to a game like this.
Yeah. Um, and like, I can definitely understand how sometimes it's a case of, oh dear God, it's work. Like, this is why I couldn't play The Sims because
Mm.
I got a job and then it felt like real life and it was no longer an escape. But for some reason, this being in a place that is so idyllic and the story behind it, how, your grandfather left this farm to you because for you to resort to when your life was just fuck the shit, right?
Mm.
And it just relates. It so relates. It's lovely. And I know have barely scratched the surface as to what this update came with. The fact that it's multiplayer now is awesome. Um, I don't know. It's just I feel like I'm repeating myself. It's just good. And I mean, I had tried Harvest Moon for the first time about a year before this came out
Okay.
and hated Harvest Moon.
Really?
I didn't like the fact that just walking used up all of my energy. I had to plan my routes. That was way too much micromanagement for me.
I can get
This,
this.
though, it's like Harvest Moon Light, but with more stuff to do.
All right. For my number three, uh, the commissioner did a great job. I just have to go right back to it because apparently me and Brian are on the exact same wavelength here. Blazeball is a fucking fantastic game, and there's been something missing in my life while it has not been out. And I understand that there's not a lot of gameplay to Blazeball. It ends up being primarily about your community. I've already bought all of the upgrades that they have. This game is great. I cannot wait for it to come back to life again. I cannot wait to cheer again for my Wild Wings. They are the best boys and girls and non binary people in the league, and I love them to pieces. And Cel Barajas is great, and everything is great, and you have to play it when it comes back out again. If you're not, you are missing out. It is just the best, most welcoming, loving community I have ever witnessed in my life around a single thing. It's like if Homestuck community also wasn't shit.
Yeah, and I just have to real quick. I think I forgot to mention this. I love the fact that the narrative of the game is so emergent as well. Like the fact that like so much work goes into incorporating the community, unlike any other ongoing game that you see, because of the nature of what Blaseball is and because of how the community interacts with it. So like that, it's just something completely um bewildering, and I just adore it.
Yeah, it's great how the devs take cues from the things that the fans are doing and brings that back into what's happening in the game. The entirety of the unmasoning is one of just the most fascinating series of events I think I've ever seen in an online space.
Yeah, like the Necronut saga, the Grand Unslam. Like there's so many of these things that would not be things really without a community that fully embraces them.
Mm. Yeah, if it weren't for the community, this would be absolutely nothing. It would just be another online sim of bases. That we've seen that sort of thing before. Often it is just, a programming exercise done for the funsies. This is a work of love, and I can't wait to see where it goes. All right, that being dropped, I have to go directly into my number one, just in fucking general. Just on the existence of your goddamn bullshit. Holy fuck, this year has made me hate Ubisoft for all of how they treat their employees, for how many scandals they've been involved in, for digging every last cent out of their goddamn player bases. Uh, Go fuck yourselves, Ubisoft. No. I have no respect for you as anything at all. The shit that you throw out is so crassly churned in some places at this point. I I'm mad, and there was absolutely a time when Ubisoft was a creative force. Now it is just a yearly dumping ground, and I have no love or sympathy for this company as of right now. So yeah, Ubisoft can go fuck off.
Yeah, and
Marilyn? Sorry.
that's not even mentioning the games.
Yeah, we haven't
Like
even gone to the games and how much they suck. This is
no.
just looking at the company and its awful fucking practices and its sweeping of money from the players.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you made Activision look good in comparison. That is amazing.
And that is a perfect segue.
All right, go ahead, Marilyn.
My
What you got for us?
my biggest disappointment disappointment of this year is World of Warcraft Shadowlands
Really?
and Blizzard as a whole. So I was looking forward to Shadowlands because say what you will for the horrific grind of Battle for Azeroth, Shadowlands actually had a good story.
Mhm.
So did Battle for Azeroth. Great story. This had the potential to be amazing. And when they released the conduit systems and all of the borrowed power, everything like that, the community rallied and went, no, you've given us 2 expansions of this bullshit. Stop. And so Blizz said, we heard you. We're going to make these changes. And they didn't. They made them less bad, but they're still bad. That expansion has been out for what, a month now?
Mhm.
I have played through the new starting zone, which if you're an experienced player, don't even fucking bother because you will never feel dumber and more handheld. Kudos for it being great for brand new, never touched the game before players because you are handheld. But I also have had a chance to play like the intro to the new expansion. And it's boring. It is so ludicrously boring. And it depresses me. Once again, the pre patch was better than the expansion because they brought back the Scourge invasion from Wrath for their pre patch, which is awesome. But I can't. I can't.
And that's amazing because usually it's the honeymoon period with World of Warcraft when they release a new expansion. It's usually the first month where people are like, "Oh my god, look at how amazing it is." And I heard a lot of that coming up to it, and then it just died. So that does tell me a lot.
Hmm.
Think we have an idea, but hey, Brian, what's your number one?
Um. So whenever I look at a category name most disappointing, I think it points to um games that I had expectations for and that didn't deliver on them in the worst possible way. That is not the case with my first choice, my most disappointing of 2020. That would be Cyberpunk 2077. Um, so Cyberpunk 2077, it has fallen flat on its face for years in multiple ways. Obviously, we've seen the whole kerfuffle with the release and in the pre-release review cycle, where they only allowed reviewers to play the PC version of the games, knowing full well that the PS4 and Xbox One versions of this game were broken to shit. Um, and then once they did land, they found themselves in such hot water that they ended up, you know, trying to offer refunds through retailers that did not necessarily know what they were doing per se, to the point that Sony just ultimately pulled the game. That an unheralded thing for a AAA title, not just any AAA title though. One of the most looked forward to games of the year being pulled off of a major retailer's digital store because it is so broken and they are so inundated with people that want their money back for it. That's one thing that can be criticized this game about. Secondly, the good dates back to 2 years ago, whenever we started to see a lot of the transphobic stuff around the marketing of this game come out. that stuff has not been delivered on. The messaging around that, basically saying like it's a form of commentary within the game, has not really been played out in the way that they want it to. It's just been fairly transphobic, down to even some of the verbiage of some characters that are trans in the game. I mean, I'll be real. I've been working my way through some of the stuff with Claire with the races, and me and my partner had a big old laugh at the way that she described her like relationship with her husband, um basically by saying that they had met before her gender transition, because that's not the way trans people talk about that. Like, that's even something as minute as that is immensely frustrating and laughable in its ignorance of how to actually like portray trans characters in their games. Um, Not to mention the fact that all the messaging around being a critique on the exploitation of bodies has played out in the game in the way that it has. That doesn't really offer much of a critique. It's just a whole bunch of stuff for you to look at, and really doesn't do anything worthwhile there. And then and then not to mention all of the racial insensitivities in this game, around a lot of the gangs. Not to mention the fact that with that I always kind of go back to what they did to the Voodoo Boys in this game.
Yeah, they're
Um,
just one. Even then, they're like an afterthought, and they're ugh, the voodoo bullshit is dumb.
well, yeah, but I mean, if you got to remember, go back to like Cyberpunk 2020, the original tabletop game. The Voodoo Boys were a bunch of white dudes in dreadlocks. Like it was a whole it was a whole like commentary on like shitty white people appropriating cultures, and then that's turned into what it is in this game, which is not good, uh, not better. It's just, I don't know. There's so many different things that factor into why this game deserves this spot for me. It is by far the most disappointing thing to come out this year in the video game world, whenever it comes to an actual game. I'm with you on like Ubisoft being a horrendous company this year, whenever it comes to pretty much all facets of their business. I'm with you on a lot of the poor business practices with Activision Blizzard. Um, a lot of the stuff that EA's been out there trying to do with FIFA and that sort of thing. But if we're talking just a game, Cyberpunk 2077 is the most disappointing game of the year by a mile for me. It is gross, it is offensive. It has like some interesting things, like points in it. Like there are interesting characters, I'll give you that. Like I like Judy, I like Pan Am, I like the some of the story that's going with Parker. But like that does not make up for the pile of just things that keep reminding me every minute nearly with this game of why CDPR was so problematic in its marketing and so problematic in its engagement with communities that they don't really understand how to represent. It's
But
frustrating.
my one question is, like, I took a look at a lot of the old Cyberpunk 2020 stuff, and it's always been kind of like shitty white guy stuff, right? It's like looking at the original content, they've kind of honestly stayed true to the original source material in a lot of ways.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I think that there's definitely discussions that tend to come up narratively within Cyberpunk stories that Cyberpunk 2077 has no desire to ever touch ever. Honestly, in lieu of having Keanu Reeves tell me how big his cock is, in the backseat of a car. So like I don't. It's just one of those things where like yeah, there are problems with trust me, there are problems with Cyberpunk as a genre. Um, but Cyberpunk 2077 it fails even in representing the genre effectively. Um, Positive, whether it be the positives or the negatives. And it focuses more on, I would say, the exploitative facets of the genre rather than trying to really tell a story that um, plays with some of the more common things that I think a lot of people will go to Cyberpunk for. Like there's no discussion of transhumanism. There's really no like no real discussion of transhumanism. It's very base level. The stuff that I am intrigued by when it comes to Cyberpunk is not there, and that is really really frustrating because I thought that it was going to be um, something more. I had my doubts. Obviously, I mean, we talked about. I opened it up by saying like I really didn't have expectations going into it, and this bore out. It's bore out fully for me. Number one with a bullet,
Mhm.
Cyberpunk 2077. Most disappointing.
All right. Number 2 best.
Okay, so my second best game of the year is Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Okay.
Um, like a couple years back, I had Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man, on my game of the year list, because it was a really good interpretation of Spider-Man games, years after we had the last like really good one, and this game, when you have the control in your hand, feels a lot like that. But I like the additions that come with having Miles being the focus of the game. Adding in the electric powers that he has, um, and but really, what makes this on my list is the story of it, and them really leaning into the kind of cultural viewpoint that a Miles Morales story would take on. Having the game mostly set around Harlem, dealing with um, issues of like gentrification and trying to change the neighborhoods into something that that kind of erases the vibrancy and the cultural nature of it. Um, Even though like a lot of the commentary things in the game, like yeah, they've been happening long before where this game is set. Um, as I said, whenever I was talking about the game a couple months back when it came out, but really the story is touching. Miles as a character is immensely more interesting than Peter Parker, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I also enjoyed the fact that it packed that Spider-Man experience into something that was like half as long as the original Spider-Man game, because that original Spider-Man game was bloated to fuck with with side missions, and that was probably the most frustrating thing about it was going through all that stuff. Um, but yeah, I adored this game. I really loved it. I shed a tear at the end, and it has a very lasting message. Whenever it comes to um, speaking to the people that it represents in this game. The communities of Harlem, the Black Latino communities, even like the deaf community. Like this had really awesome representation, pretty much all around, in the game itself, and it was just really fun to play at the same time. So yeah, belongs at number 2 for me.
Merwin, your number 2?
My number 2, and Coop, go ahead, yell at me. It's a game that was released last year on PC. However, it made its console debut this year, and that's Superliminal. Released by an indie studio called Pillow Castle. It was originally done as a proof of concept demo called the Museum of Force Perspective. And this game right fucks with your head because it forces you to look at things incredibly differently and think outside the box at every turn. It gives you all the feels, and honestly, you can rip through this game in about 4 hours. And it's worth it to finish it. Just listen. It will tell you so much and will bring you so much peace in your life. Definitely play the game, go through the entire monologue at the end, and you will start looking at your own life differently as well. Also, Markiplier is a fucking idiot for not being able to figure this out. Um, But I mean, it's one of those games where sometimes the simplest solution is the correct one, and you overthink it because you've had to overthink like 15 other puzzles before it.
Mm.
Um, but it's a really cool game. Basically, you are someone who needs help. You're stressed. You feel worthless. Your life feels like a steaming pile of crap. Hi 2020 in a nutshell.
Mm.
So you go to this fantastic new place called Somnosculp that is supposed to help you fix all of this. It's sleep therapy. So, therapy without the hard work. But I mean, we're all special snowflakes and we enjoy breaking the game. And so shit happens. And yeah, I I can't recommend this one enough. It is just so good. So very good. It's on Epic right now. I think it's like a $15 game. Totally worth every penny.
You gotta love too how lightweight the game is, right? Like you don't have to waste, weeks getting through this. You can sit down and play it in one go if you really want to, but
Exactly. And it is perpetually being updated, which is kind of nice.
oh,
Because I notice new features when I played it last, because I've played this game through to completion 3 or 4 times now. And there are still puzzles that I get stuck on, even
Hmm.
now. Um, after like my fourth playthrough. And just being able to do shit like that is so much fun. Little tiny die. Nope. Gigantic monster. Godzilla die. Chomp, 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 chomp. Anywho, um, I'm easily amused, which is probably why this game appeals to me so much. But it's a very freeing game, and there are moments. I know I streamed it fairly recently, and we hit a point in the game where everybody goes, "Are you sure this isn't a horror game?" Because it does give you the feels. Like, it is so fantastically good at building so much atmosphere and so much intensity for such a simple game that you don't have to, like, they have very little dialogue in this.
oh yeah.
Very, very little dialogue. Pretty much all of your dialogue comes in the forms of these tape recorders that are left by the doctor who runs Somnosculpt, and also of the Somnosculpt AI, who is vaguely reminiscent of GLaDOS.
A little bit, yeah.
Um, and there are points where they will say something and you're just sitting there snickering to yourself and you don't know why. Because it wasn't something particularly hilarious, but it usually comes at a point where you're just like, oh my God, I'm trapped. This is never going to end. I'm going to lose my shit. And then you get little tiny audio clip and you start giggling. And it's confusing and perplexing, but amazing at the same time. I have never had a game play with my emotions this bad.
I do love when you just pluck the moon out of the sky. It's just there's so many just cute little things that you can do in this game, and that's appreciated.
And playing with the soda machines where you get to, like, you can do diet soda, light soda, random soda, baking soda, green soda, purple soda, red soda.
Perfect.
Yeah. It can you tell I've played this game too much? It's lovely though. It really is.
My number two. Bear with me on this. Okay. I hear you already. Yes, this is one of the worst stories in a video game I think I've ever played. I still hate the story itself so hard. But beyond that, everything else about this game was amazing. The theming, the thematics of the game was great. The controls of this game were amazing. I loved that Ellie and Abby both, despite having exactly the same wheelhouse of abilities and moveset, were such completely different characters. Ellie, this sneaky, stabby little shit, and then Abby, this absolute tank of a woman. The fact that these two elements played so hard against each other were great. The camera work, the blocking was amazing. The building of cities was fantastic. The voice acting was so good. The scene in the museum absolutely got me. And then to make me... I feel like they got the wrong impression from The Last of Us Part 1 that making you do things that you don't enjoy is such a amazing idea, because this game at so many points will make you do things you have no interest in doing. And it is such a goddamn waste. But holy shit, the artwork that went into this game, how beautiful everything is. Even the decrepit falling apart stuff is amazing. And I hate that I can't like this game even better than I do, because I had so much fun playing the game. And I can't say a single thing positive for the script that they had. It's such a waste, but I have to give it my number 2 because it was just such a delight and charm. If the whole game was just Seattle, given that vast expanse to just wander around in and shit around with, with your partner, that would have been great. I loved that part of the game more than anything I have done or seen this year. And it is a shame that that was put into this particular game. I am so hopeful. I want there to be DLC. I'm going to be the first in line for that DLC, because I'm hopeful that they can do something with this. I want to play as Abby more. I want to see more of her story. And I really hope that's there. But don't give me any more of this, well, isn't it awful that this person is awful?
Yeah. I have thoughts, but I'm going to hold them until we do the spoiler cast. Because I can't really express them without getting into real nitty gritty stuff.
We'll definitely do a spoiler cast of this at some point, probably in January. I don't think we're going to do anything tomorrow or anything, but yeah, there is so much great here, and then there is so much awful here. Ugh.
Yeah.
But the great parts stayed with me so much I can't not include it.
I still need to sit down and play both of these.
All right. So, I'll just leave this running for shits and giggles, but we're going to go into our honorable mentions here.
Yeah.
And these
Quick.
are going to be kind of quick, I guess. The new Paper Mario was a lot of fun. I never expected to have so many feelings for a bomb. Um, just it felt flat in a lot of areas though. There's a lot of parts that felt forced. A lot of the writing was not phenomenal. Um, they're just I understand now why all the people complain about Paper Mario games. It absolutely lacked the fun that I've had in previous like Mario and Luigi games and stuff along those lines. And that's a huge fucking shame, but it's still a joy. It's still a romp. It is definitely an easy recommendation for a year that has been so light on quality Nintendo games to really talk about. Spelunky 2. I am awful at Spelunky. I can't play Spelunky. I am the absolute worst because all I want to do is rush and jump and go, and you can't do that in Spelunky 2. But I have watched this community unlock some of the most cryptic bullshit. The community found a 99 level dungeon that you have to do so much bullshit to even get to in the first place, and your reward for that 99 level dungeon is to turn into a constellation of stars for your hours. And even those stars have such weird stuff that the Spelunky 2 community found out. It's cool. I love it. I can't play it for shit, but I am so glad this game exists. I had wondered how they could make a Spelunky 2, and I certainly found out. Take what's there and then build a logic monster, and that is Spelunky 2. Cook Serve Delicious 3, it is more Cook Serve Delicious, but I absolutely love the premise of a post-apocalypse cooking simulator. Absolutely for it. It just wasn't engaging enough to consider for the list. Doom Eternal, whole lot of fun to play. Except I can't include it because of certain areas that made me hate the game. Tiny pieces. There's the story is really fucking confusing. But it's worth a play, especially if you like shooty bang bang stuff. It is something to veg out and destroy. It's cool. Fall Guys, it's probably my favorite multiplayer game in a long time. There's just not a whole lot of meat there, but it is a great pick up and play or pick up and play with your boys game. Recommended. And God, just Devolver in general this year has absolutely killed it. I don't know if they can do wrong anymore. Everything they touch has been gold. It's not that they always put out the greatest games ever. There are some mediocre games, absolutely, that put out. Pikmin is definitely along those lines, but they're always fun and different, and the way they package their products is always amazing. They're always polished to a mirror shine, and that's just great. there's my honorable mentions for the year. Marilyn?
Okay, so my honorable mentions for this year are Fall Guys, mainly because I have never had as much fun sucking at a game than I have with that game. It's dumb and cute and fun and good for a couple of hours of just giggling like an idiot or bouncing your head off your desk in frustration. Um, you mentioned Devolver, which made me think of the Devolver Land Expo. That was the best fucking marketing ploy I have ever seen.
Yeah, I
It
have
was
no idea where
stellar.
they can go from there. That was so good.
They yeah, I tip my hats to you. And oddly enough, um Warframe's Heart of Demos uh update, their new expansion. It's just fun and dark and creepy and fun and more frantic than ever before. It's so much. It's everything. I can't wait to see where they go next. Although they did just get bought by Tencent.
No, I don't have the hate for Tencent. A lot of people do. I don't think they're good, but I don't.
Well, Digital Extremes was owned by Leu,
Mm.
which was another Chinese company, but Leu was really good in that they just kind of were hands off. They let Digital Extremes do their thing because they knew what they were doing best. And it's looking like Tencent's going to do the same thing because they bought Leu. So,
Okay.
which means therefore they bought our dear Canadians, the Digital Extreme crew. Um, but I mean, Warframe just keeps getting more and more polished and gets more and more amazingness. And they're working on their releases for the next gen consoles, and they're looking at doing cross saves for those as well. So, yeah, I've only got 3 honorable mentions this year, but goddamn, they're fun.
Nice.
Brian, your honorable mentions.
All right, so I'll run through these pretty quick because we're coming up on time here. But Final Fantasy VII Remake, for the reasons that we already stated earlier. Um, tell me why Don't Nod's follow-up episodic game to Life is Strange. Just outstanding storytelling and representation for trans people in that game. Crusader Kings 3, because it's just I I'm burgeoning in my love for 4X games, and Crusader Kings 3 scratches that itch in the best way. Spellbreak, one of the easiest battle royale games to to really dip your toe into, and really spins that genre on its head a little bit. Umurangi Generation, for taking the first person shooter and retooling it in a photograph form that really speaks to um, rebellion and like sort of disillusionment, but not full disillusionment, in a way that's really interesting. It's a game. It's probably the game on this list that I most want to get my hands on that I haven't had a chance to play yet. Um, it just looks outstanding. Um, Kentucky Route Zero. They finally released the fifth chapter of that this year, and that game is just outstanding. Over the course of its development. And then a surprise for me that this only popped up this week for me though. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity.
That is fresh.
Mainly because one, I like how it ties into the story of Breath of the Wild in interesting ways, but also because it's been really fun to have a co-op game that I can play with my partner, and we're both into it and we both have a lot of fun with it, and it's just something that we've been looking to try and find a good local co-op game for us to play together, and this has really worked out really really well for that. So yeah, those would be my honorable mentions there. Which I guess that kind of leads us into game of the year, right?
Yeah.
All right, so my game of the year is If Found. um Obviously, if you've listened to the show for as long as it's been running, you know that I am really more of a sucker for story games that have a message in its narrative and speaks to real life experiences that are affected communities that are close to my heart. And being part of the LGBTQ community, this game um, is it's endearing and heart wrenching in many ways in this narrative. The story of Cassio in 1993 Ireland. Just trying to find themselves in this world as a trans woman amidst ridicule from family, society, and just dealing with the some of the mental health issues that come with that sort of thing. Um, it's really a story of overcoming those issues, and it literally literally at the same time you are erasing your past. Like the main mechanic in this game is using an eraser to move through um, Cassio's journal, telling her story of Christmas 1993, coming back home to rural Ireland after living in Dublin and going to school in Dublin to get her master's degree. Um, it's beautiful as much as it is heart wrenching at times, and it's just the art style is amazing, and it speaks to I think so many people and really humanizes these communities in a way that um, a lot of indie games are doing now, but in a way that makes it feel more active in a lot of ways. I mean, I was thinking that while I was playing this, like this literally kind of feels like Trans Erasure the game in a lot of ways whenever you pair the mechanics with some of the story parts to it, and it comes out the other side um in a really engrossing way, and I just adored every second that I spent with this game. Not to mention the sci-fi sides like allegorical stuff that's in there too is really fun to engage with. um a lot of talk about black holes. But no, it's short. It's only about 2 to 3 hours. And it's really, really, really good. I would suggest anybody play it, especially um, if you are part of the community or feel or want to engage with stories that relate experiences of the community as well. I just love it.
Well, I can understand. The experience is often just as important, and here we have a game that utilizes its own function, right? The way you interact with it as its own tool and metaphor. The gameplay drives the story, and though those tend to be for me like the best games is how do you drive your narrative with the mechanic that you have in place. So I could
Definitely.
absolutely see that, yeah. All right, Merowyn, you're number one for the year.
It's not a game that I have the most hours in. It's one that I had genuine fun playing, and it took me outside of my comfort zone in gaming. My game of the year is Spellbreak. Um, it is a quick and dirty battle royale style with magic. So it's like Harry Potter meets Fortnite. And I've I hate, hate battle royales. Absolutely despise them. Um, but this one I found myself going back to again and again, and I don't know why. I mean, the tutorial that you can go through is fantastic, teaches you absolutely everything you need to know. The versatility in the game is stellar. You can, if you're playing duos or you're playing a squad, you can actually all coordinate what kind of elements you're going to start with and which ones you're going to pick up because they all work together in tandem. And it's the first battle royale I've played that didn't cause me a ludicrous amount of anxiety. Which is usually my issue with battle royale games is I get panicky
Mm.
And this one, it just felt so smooth and so natural. It's ridiculously polished right out of the gate. I'm thrilled, and it's free. Like, this has been my year of I must manage money, no money for games, pirate or die for single players. And so to find something that was this clean and this polished for free is just, I'm thrilled. I'm beyond thrilled with it.
Yeah, it for the genre that it's in, it definitely doesn't look like anything else in its genre. I love the shading that they do on this. Um, it's just a completely different look than I think any of us are used to, and from what I've seen, that plays well to its advantage. That it is something that stands out from the field.
Like, we're getting inundated with battle royales.
Mhm.
We really are. And so this was a refreshing break. The graphics kind of remind me of Breath of the Wild,
I can see that.
just
Yeah.
a little bit. And like, just it can be so fast and so ridiculous. And the light mechanic and the fact that you can get these quick and dirty powers that make your life easier, like you can teleport. My favorite to pick up is the ultimate invisibility, which gives you total invisibility until you attack for like 20 or 30 seconds. Um, so if you know you're not geared well enough, but you've been lucky enough to stumble upon the ultimate invisibility, it's going to save you. Like, usually battle royales, I'm one of the first people out
Mhm.
every single game. With this one, it gives you like, my first game got me in 17th of 40, and my second game I was second.
Nice.
Like, it's that easy to pick up and play, and I am horrific at games like this. The matchmaking was excellent as well. I wasn't going against people who were like absolute masters at the game. They definitely take into account your skill level.
Cool. All right. Last, this is going to surprise absolutely nobody that knows me whatsoever. um, Hades is absolutely my game of the year. I will go in this with the caveat, and boy, I feel like this is the caveat I've had for every game this year. The story of Hades, after all of the buildup, is kind of a letdown to me. That they didn't do more with where this was going. It kind of feels like it just happens, and that's a crying shame. But beyond that, the gameplay is stellar. The characterization is amazing. The flexibility and the things that Zagreus can do are outstanding. The voice work, the music, everything is spot on. It is my absolute go to when I need to not think. It is such a fast paced, arcadey brawler. I dig the hell out of it, and even losing in this game is winning. Every time you die, you get to come back and learn more about the world that you find yourself in. Get more lore. Build up your character. It takes the hook from Rogue Legacy and really multiplies on that hook, creating just one of the most the best I've ever felt playing a game basically in my memory. Um, it does take a lot of work to really get used to how the game plays. I will say that it is a lot easier than it looks to begin with. I think the game, to its detriment, doesn't really give you that feel for how important that dash mechanic is to how the game works. But once you get used to that, once you start learning how all of these gods link together and how their abilities can chain off of each other, it is the most joy I have had playing a game. I can't recommend this game enough, especially for fellow roguelike fans, people that love the lunchtime pick up and play roguelike genre in the first place. People that, you know, a 30-minute run every now and again is what you're looking for. It is absolutely here. And just, it is absolutely everything. It is a work of art. Yet again, I really wish there was more to sink your teeth into story-wise for how everything goes and plays out, but I will absolutely forgive Supergiant from that, because thematically and built, this game is great. Even if a lot of the parts don't really pay out, the characters that they build from doing the various things and the interactions you have are stellar. Beware the fan community of Hades. They are horny as hell.
Is
They
that
are
really
special
a bad
people.
thing?
I can't say it's a bad thing per se, but boy, the community is thirsty, and I can understand. The artist basically was told, "Hey, just study these characters as the artistry was originally drawn," and yeah, you turn that into modern aesthetics, and you just get horny. So I get it. But yeah, that is my game of the year. I think there could have definitely been a chance for a game to surpass this for me, as surprising as it may be to sound, just as I was so let down for where the game actually went with its story and how quickly it allowed itself to just kind of suddenly resolve. I just, I thought there was so much there, but yeah, that's my game of the year, Hades. So, there is your list of the year from all of us. I think despite the fact that all three of us had Cyberpunk as somewhere in our biggest disappointments for the year, that's yeah, it does show how very vast the market is. That all three of us looked at, there was some crossover, but completely different genre and scopes for what we looked for. And I think that's what's impressive within this media, is there is something for everyone. Um, and that's why I think I like this medium so much. And that's cool. I'm glad I love this segment every year that we get to do this. I know Wonder Boy had to dash because we got to the top of the hour, but Coop, Kelverin, Giant Pie, John Borg,
Nomi,
Nomi.
Josh.
Yeah, just all of our Dead Sun community. Thank you for coming. And I'm going to give you guys a Mr. Video Games, because I have a Mr. Video Games that sums up 2020 for me, at least, from how I feel of 2020, and it's weird, fucking dumb, awkward, strange marketing.
Oh
And
boy.
for me,
Is that what I think it is?
it's the KFC console that to me is just a summary of what is weird about this year, because we saw so much new hardware this year, with the Xbox Series, the PlayStation 5, even down to the analog and the Intellivision, the Atari VCS came out this year. Just a flux of hardware. And here is KFC with its specced out PC with a tray to keep your chicken warm built into it. It is ridiculous that we live in a year where this exists. KFC has gone hard on trying to market itself to the younger generation for reasons that really confused me, between making a dating simulator, a Lifetime special, and now this. It's so weird and ridiculous. It's such a hard attempt at being, hey, fellow gamers, but yet having an amount of earnestness built into it at the same time, that this to me says 2020, that we have a marketed console for Game of the Year. It's basically a souped up PC. Nobody's terribly surprised, but this weird marketing and summation of parts, this is 2020 to me, the KFC console.
Yeah. It's kind of like People of Walmart meets gaming.
It's so stupid, and yet it's almost not bad, and it's almost adorable in so many fucking weird ways.
It's terrifying, but in a good way. Like roller coasters.
Mhm. I absolutely would not be mad at anybody if they told me they bought this. I understand. I get it. So yeah, here
I
you
would take
go.
it free.
Yeah, if you want to give this to me, I will absolutely take it. I will, keep this in my office with me at all times. I can hook it up to all other things. I will feel great about this. I don't have a desktop per se, so I'd be all for it.
I'd find a way to hook a capture card up to it because I don't think it could run OBS and game. Um, and I would stream from this thing at least once.
Yeah. Yeah. This has been the last stream of Mr. Video Games for 2020. Of course, Brian, you can always catch on Outsports, their podcast LBGT in the Ring. There is so much delightful content that boy puts out into the sphere. Follow him on Twitter. I am more than happy to be shill for my friends when they had to leave early. Marilyn, any final words for us this evening?
You know what, guys? Now more than ever, don't forget to love each other from a socially distanced perspective. Wear your mask, wash your hands, be the change you want to see in the world. 2020's been shit. A better 2021 starts with you. And you know what? Just be cool.
Yeah, and if 2020 has taught anything to us, for fuck's sake, be nice to people. If they don't agree with you, if they hold different opinions, as long as those different opinions are, I like this game and I like this story, you know, and not, hey, you're not a person. Okay, then yes, fine. But we've, you know, through talking about video games all year, have had so many stories of just ridiculous bullshit that people have done to each other over video games. More than anything, this should be a space for fun. That is, you know, when you boil down to essence, a game is fun and enjoyable. And if you take anything with you, it is a escapism in some ways, whether it's filling yourself with a story that makes you understand and appreciate your world and people around you, playing a game with your friends where there are mechanics that make you feel something, or even just battling it out with other people and that rush and conquest and victory. There's so much great shit that I love seeing within this community, and just thank everyone for all the fucking positivity that you can put out into the world. I know sometimes we are real negative, and, you know, there have been times that I regret some of the things that I've said, but thank you for being here with us every step of the way, and thank you for being that change in the world that makes all the difference. We will see all of you guys again in 2021. We will return with more Mr. Video Games. Thank you guys for coming. Have a good night and a pleasant tomorrow.
Bye.